and welcome to another Biddle for March 2nd, 2019. How's everybody doing?
Doing fine, thanks.
Doing good.
Fantastic.
Doing okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a quick confirmation from the chat for the audio, and we will continue on. All right, so this week we have been trying Salient OS, and that is made, formed, forked, however you want to call it, from Silent Robot. Silent. What's going on?
Hello. It's all good.
So let me ask you a question before we start in on this, Silent. What made you want to do this?
The short version is I couldn't find what I wanted out there in any distro. And so I started installing the applications that I would use and configuring the system how I wanted it. And I thought, this is silly. This may as well be an ISO. So I downloaded the Arch tools and read the documentation and built my own ISO for me personally, really. And then as that progressed, I thought, this is a bit selfish. I should share this. And so that's how it came about, really. Very simple.
That's pretty awesome, man, because I honestly, I'm in the same boat where I just can't find exactly what I want yet. So that is an awesome thing, although I'm surely not going to be making my own distro anytime soon.
It's not that difficult.
Here we go, another surge.
For the arch genius guy, it's not that difficult, but for me, it is difficult. All right. So Zeb, you're up. What did you think about Salient?
Well, Salient OS is now going to be my go-to Arch installation program. In one simple word, it's awesome. It hits all the right checkboxes. It's XFCE. It's got a nice dark theme out of the box. And everything just works. What more can you ask?
All right, hold on. We got some audio feedback somewhere. Somebody's mic is feedbacking. Is that word, feedbacking?
Who's got a dog in the background?
I think it's a cat purring.
Sounds like a cat. Yeah.
I have my cat is sitting here purring. And
Oh, okay.
my 16-year-old cat.
No, it's not the cat purr. It was a definite feedback, mic feedback, mumble.
No,
mumble,
it wasn't. Okay, Spooky, you're okay.
Yeah.
If that was a cat purring in the background, that's funny. All right,
No.
sorry, Zeb. Sorry, Zeb. Go ahead. Continue on.
Yeah, no, I mean it's everything I want a distribution to be. It'll be there in my top 3 now: Peppermint MX, and now Arch by Salient OS. So it'll be one of my top 3 from now on.
Very nice. Very nice. High praise there, Silent. High praise. Just saying.
Indeed. Very grateful.
All right, Peter. What do you think?
Mind you, to be fair, Zeb did go through like 20 iterations.
Yeah, we went through a couple of episodes of pain, that's for sure, but we got there in the end.
We did indeed.
All right. So I installed Salient OS on my eSATA drive. And by the way, when I boot up that drive in Grub, I now have Salient OS, OpenSUSE, and Salient OS. It's OS everywhere. So I've got to make sure I'm picking the right one when I boot it. I actually installed Salient OS 3 times. The first time was with the NVIDIA, because I do have an NVIDIA card, but it is over 8 years old. So, and for some reason, I didn't fully investigate it. I installed the one with NVIDIA, and when I rebooted the machine, it would not boot. It just got stuck on a line that said display, and just stuck. So I ended up scrapping that one, installed it with NVIDIA, sorry, without NVIDIA, and then tried to install it myself, adding the 340-107 driver. But I must have done something wrong, because when I rebooted again, it messed up a bit. It wouldn't boot. So right now, I've still got it installed the 3rd time, but just regular Salient OS. as Zeb said, I really like the design. I like the wallpaper, the theme. I've not changed any of. Well, I changed the wallpaper, but the theme I didn't even touch. I like it as it is. And there's a lot of good software in there, a lot of good choices. Steve mentioned this morning. Sorry, Steve, I'm stealing your thunder. He mentioned there was a couple of duplicate programs as such. It was OpenShot and Caden Live, but then they are kind of different. They do have different features. So even though there seems to be duplication, I don't believe it really is. The only set of programs I actually installed myself was LibreOffice, because I do use that a lot. And like Zeb, for now I'm going to leave this on there because it's the only Arch distro I've got installed. But overall, I really like it. I can see myself using it. Silent, well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I love the grub screen, so it's probably one of the best looking ones out there. The welcome screen, not the welcome screen, the install screens.
Yeah, yes, that's great.
Were pretty awesome. The README, we laughed last week when you had said about, make sure everybody reads the README file, and there was some great info in that.
Yes.
The only thing that I would maybe suggest is it possible to put that in a welcome screen format?
That's
when you first boot up.
Totally doable, yeah.
Because that would be perfect so that people don't have to go and open up the README. It would be right there in front of them as soon as they, boot into it. Because there was some great info in that to get you started.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Michael, what do you think of Salient, or did you get to try it?
I did, and that was actually one of the things I was going to say. If not on the welcome screen, just like have the text file on there, or have a link to the website or the SourceForge page or something, just so that it's easier for people to find once they're actually in it. I went ahead and read ahead because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was halfway doing anyway. I installed it actually on my ThinkPad and on the external hard drive, and then I swapped over and tried it on my NVIDIA machine, and both of them worked really well. It took a few minutes to unsquash the files, but after that, the install ran really fast. So I was glad about that. I didn't really see any issues with it running over USB 3. I ended up installing Rocket League on there just to see if it changed my frame rates any. But since it's NVIDIA and it's an older card, not so much. Didn't really see much difference performance-wise. But it is cool that the NVIDIA machine actually worked with it, because a lot of times I'm like, if it's anything beyond Ubuntu, a lot of times right now, I just haven't had much luck. Manjaro and I haven't tried Manjaro for months now, 6 months probably, but Manjaro and something else, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, both didn't. I just could not get the drivers to cooperate, but they just started right up. So that was good. I did really like the theme overall. I really liked the icons; those were cool, and just the overall look and the just the way most of the things were laid out. It made a lot of sense, and it was nice to have all the programs there. So, I don't know that I'll be running Arch all the time, but it's definitely one I'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's definitely the go-to choice, in my opinion, for Arch. I have to agree with Zeb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
A couple of things I did forget is, if you are a gamer, it's got everything set up for you out of the box. Yes. Steam is there, Lutris is there, DXVK, if I've said that the right way around. I never know which way the letters go in. eSync. And the only thing that I think he might be adding to it is Feral's game mode.
Yeah, that will be.
Everything's brilliant.
That will be added in the next build.
Yeah, well, that NVIDIA ISO itself is just a welcome thing, because I think there's only Pop! OS, I think, is the only other one that offers a separate ISO for NVIDIA.
As far as I'm aware, yeah, a dedicated ISO.
Yeah, that's an awesome feature of it. All right, Colin, you are up, sir.
Okay, I installed Salient OS, I think 3 times, but the first 2 times was with the NVIDIA ISO. Now, my Toshiba laptop is a real sore point when it comes to that NVIDIA card. It's just plays up with the smallest incompatibility. So I downloaded the one without the NVIDIA, and that worked fine. So I made a video on my Toshiba laptop, but I've now got it running on my Lenovo IdeaPad 110, and this is what I'm on today, running Salient OS. And it's easy install, easy Arch install. I think there's a couple of Arch installs easy out there. This one was really good. I like the installer. I'm not sure what the installer is. Is it Calamaris?
It's Calamari, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, that's really easy. So that makes Arch easy. So I don't have to bother go and install Arch now. So I like the way he's got the split panels going on at the top there. It seemed to be pretty easy for me to adapt to. So, and he's got the panel down the bottom as well. And I like the way he's made good use of panels without having a third-party Docker and anything. I think that's the best way to have XFCE running, is with those, make use of the panels. I really like that. And I did notice it was pretty much game orientated because there was no Office program in there. No big deal, easy to install Office, no drama at all. So, and he's got some of my favorites in here as well, which was Telegram, Thunderbird, and he had the two Chromium and Firefox web browsers, so they work pretty well in conjunction with each other. So I'm finding this quite good. So I'm going to keep it on this laptop for a while and see how it goes. I'm quite impressed with it. So yeah, nice job, Solent. I'm really liking it.
Thanks, Colin. I appreciate that.
And by the way, this is a very low spec laptop, modern one, but low spec, the IdeaPad 110. So I'm finding it running very well. And the only one that really runs the same speed on here is pretty much MX. So it's sort of on par with that. So yeah, very good. Good job.
Very nice. All right, Chris, what do you think of Salient?
Oh, once I got it up and running, it was pretty good. That little trick with having to click on the username, then click on the username again, I had to go back to the forum and figure that out. But once I figured that out, that was easy enough to get logged on. Now, doing a lot of the stuff in the command line, I found it was a couple things that really didn't appreciate. One was having the Vim, your Vim config come in. I'm assuming that came off of a Git and come in and compile, because now Vim is configured the way you like it, not the way I like it. And I found it very hard to get around in Vim at that point. And I ended up having to rip those config files out.
That's easy enough. Just delete the .vim folder in your home
folder. Well,
yeah,
but it was. But as soon as, you know, I start up Vim and all of a sudden it starts compiling things, that kind of freaked me out. I was like, hey, what's going on here? And then I couldn't figure out, it wouldn't let me out of Vim. You know, I hit escape and it wouldn't let me do the command line. I ended up just shutting the machine down at that point and restarting. But now I'm also using a ancient Acer E machine that is, well, I have the stream up on it right now, so I can monitor the stream, and it's working great. It really is. I can't complain. I got 2 gigs of memory on there. I think it's a 1.6 single core, and it's handling everything fine. The other thing was, I was trying to figure out on the prompt, when I got an error, it would give me a number in a red background. I couldn't figure out what that was. I was trying to look that up, and I got behind on my paying work, so I didn't get a chance to look it up. I just wanted to know if that was something that was supposed to give me a clue on what the error was, or if that was just what was that?
Yeah, they're basically its current state conditions.
Okay.
So, for example, if you drop into root, you'll get a red prompt.
Right.
Unless you know you're operating in root, or if a command has failed, you'll get an indication that that's been the case.
Right. Okay. So that's what I thought it was. I just couldn't confirm that. Let's see. But other than that, I mean, I've not had a problem with it. I saw that you had OBS installed on the dock there. Unfortunately, I don't have anything video-wise that would allow me to use OBS. So Otherwise, there'd be a little bit different presence on the network, as far as I'm concerned. But once I figured out Pac-Man, everything was great. I was able to get Lazarus installed. I was able to get LibreOffice installed, and I was happy with everything else.
You
Very
also have Yay available as a command line tool to access the AUR without enabling it within PAMAC.
Okay.
Yay's way awesome.
I've never used it. I've never used Arch, so I had no idea what our package managers were. So.
It's almost 100% parity with Pacman command line. So for command is almost 100% the same.
Okay.
So you could issue Yay -S, and install a program that way. You can do -S YU, do an update. Pretty much 100% parity with PAMAC, or Pacman rather.
Kind of like DNF and Yum.
Yeah.
Yep. Adam, what's going on?
Not much. How's it going?
Awesome.
All right. So I actually did take a look at it this week. Finally.
Thank you.
I thought it was pretty good. It was a really quick install. I can install Arch in about half an hour to 45 minutes, but being able to do it in like 5, much better. Comes with tons of software. I think quite a lot of software. Maybe more than I normally install on a machine, but it's got the stuff that I use: OBS, Telegram, all those, a lot of stuff that I would use. But I don't know, kind of a big ISO. Having like multiple web browsers and things. It's just not my. If I were building Arch, I would want something a little more minimal. But that's the sacrifice for a 5-minute Arch install, then I'll take it. But it's actually I kind of liked it. I'm not a big fan of XFCE, but normally, but it wasn't a highly offensive XFCE experience, so it was all right.
Well, I said in the pre-show there when we were talking back and forth that every problem that I encountered with Salient had nothing to do with Salient and everything to do with what I encounter with every XFCE desktop. And that includes the 4K, scaling and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, Zeb had sent me a thing for actually scaling in XFCE, but I didn't have it at the time. And I spent like an hour reading the text like this tiny on the screen. And I started to get a headache. I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So, what are you going to do?
Just lower the resolution, I guess. That's the easiest one. But
can't do it.
Yeah, that was all right.
Can't
that was good.
All right, Big Pod, you're up.
Okay. Personally, I liked Salient OS. It is a good Arch distro, but there are a couple of things that did kind of bother me, but those are mainly my personal choices, like, for example, SDDM, whatever it's called, the login manager did in past give me a lot of trouble, so I don't like it. And a couple of software choices did kind of bother me, but that's my thing. Otherwise, it's good distro. I don't have anything much to say.
All right, Paul?
Hey.
Did you try Salient, brother?
I did, and I really liked it. First Arch that I've been able to actually use and enjoy. And then once you figure out that Pac-Man, I like that Pac-Man, XSCE, I know how to use that, so that was cool. And I recently upgraded to the NVIDIA 950 for $40 on Craigslist.
Nice.
Installed like that. I'm really amazed. I really like it.
Good.
All right. Scott, you're up, sir.
No, Mike.
You are muted, Scott.
I am not muted anymore.
There you go.
Yep. Sorry I missed last week. Just actually got out of hospital recently, and then the last day I only had the day to test Salient. And thank you, Colin, for stealing my thunder on this. You covered every point I was going to cover. However, a little differently, I was in a little bit of a rush to install it, so I went and downloaded it, and didn't even realize I was clicking on the green link to download the NVIDIA. However, I am Team Red, as you can see, so I had to go back and get the regular ISO, and I was so insanely amazed at how easy this was to install. It just was brilliant.
Yeah.
I was just thought, wow, gosh, why can't they all be like that? So Silent, what an awesome job. Everything I installed, like Colin did, I did Calligra and LibreOffice. All my other apps that I normally use, flawless. And again, why can't they all be like that? So I have nothing more really to add. You guys have already covered it.
Nice.
Thank you, Scott.
Well, sorry to hear you've been unwell, but hopefully you're on the mend there, Scott.
I am indeed. So, yep, all
Great
good.
stuff.
Thanks.
Well, looking forward to your review, Nate, because you always go quite in depth, and I'll be interested to read your article that I'm sure you've written as well.
So the article won't be done probably until tomorrow or Monday because it's been a busy week for me. I traveled to your side of the world there, Zeb.
You certainly did.
Yeah. So I'm still suffering from some jet lag today, and so I didn't get a chance to work had me busy this week, so I didn't get a chance to really dig into the Salient OS. However, in the time I did play around with it, I do have some thoughts. So what I liked, I'm not much of a modern gamer. Outside of playing Domestic Overbite or whatever it's called with you guys, I usually play the older games, and so I like the fact that I could through the Lutris, I could install Scum and the Commodore 64 emulator and Stella, the Atari, like real easy. Like so as like a more of a retro gamer, for me it was exciting that I could actually go in there and without any faffing about, is that the right? Did I say that right? Yes. I could go ahead and play those old games. So that was pretty exciting for me. The only real hang up I had with it was when I started from the live CD. I like to install right from the get-go, so I don't like going to live mode and then installing, but whatever. I couldn't actually find the install. I had to go look for it in the menu. Outside of that was my only real like hang up, because everyone else has it right on the desktop. But that's a small niggle, as it were. The desktop looks really nice. I like the dark theme, but this has kind of some orange accents, which is I haven't seen with any other desktop, and I really appreciated that. Coming from my my love for Star Trek: The Next Generation, they had a lot of orange there, so it made me think of that. Mm-hmm. The settings panel was great. I like having a settings panel I can go to, like MX has, like any KDE setup has. I could go right and find whatever I needed right from there, and that was pretty fantastic. And now, so what I don't like, there's just a couple. I'm actually grasping at straws here for this. So I was looking for things I didn't like about it, actually, because I have to give some kind of constructive criticism, right? So this is totally a desktop bias layout. I like to give menus, or let's say admin overhead. You get one side of the screen. I prefer the bottom. If it's the top or the side, that's okay, but you only get one side. So that's why I don't like Unity very much, because they take two sides, and I don't like Elementary as much because you take two sides, top and bottom. So it's a personal bias. You get one side. So I would actually prefer not having that launcher thing that so many people like, and just kind of throw everything on one, throw it to the bottom or top or whatever. But that's a total personal opinion. I wouldn't change your look based on my personal opinion. The other thing is that the firewall is off by default, and that seems to be pretty common with most distributions. I prefer my firewall on by default, so I don't have to go in there and just lock everything down and force me to open things up as needed. But outside of that, I mean, I thought it was great, and I could play around with Scum VM and have a ball with that. So that was actually a good time. So, and the article will be Sunday or Monday. It's a busy weekend, so I'll have to wait on that. But that's forthcoming. So thank you very much.
Just a quick one for you, in case you wasn't aware. The bottom panel is just an XFCE panel, and the way he's designed the top two panels is they don't take up the whole screen. So you could have literally opened up the panel preferences, unticked it, dragged it to the top, put it in the middle, and you'd have had your one layer feel.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I'm just saying that was a personal. That's something I had to play around with to get it to where I wanted. But it's a total. I mean, I know it's XFCE. It's a total personal preference. That's it. That isn't even a non-issue, really, honestly. So,
as you were saying, just looking for something to do the opposite of what Nate normally does.
Right.
Great. Well, Steve, what about yourself? I understand you might be making a video, or you have made a video.
Yeah, I did a little one. I'll start off by saying this is my very first Arch install on hardware. About a year ago, I did Antergos and Manjaro in a VM as I was learning how to do that. But I don't remember much about it. But I figured, since it was silent, I'd give it a try. I'm not a gamer, but I do like XFCE. Back up a little bit. I did have problems installing. Mainly it was mine. I installed it on a HP 8440 that has an NVIDIA card on it. So I went with the NVIDIA ISO. I couldn't get past and boot up past the graphical. I forget what the thing was. I remembered I had tried Pop OS with the NVIDIA thing and had the same problems, or had different problems with it. So I figured maybe it was that ISO. So I went back and got the regular ISO, got in there, no problem. Silent, you themed it beautifully. Not far off probably what I would do. I like what you did with the notification center. For me, like the panels, I don't do panels really. I'm a super key user and start typing and finding what I want right away. But that's all just personal preference. Being my first Arch install, I didn't know what to expect. I knew what I can expect out of XFCE. But I probably will leave it on that laptop so I can kind of start getting an idea about Arch, because I've never run it. The Adawada Dark theme is beautiful on there. The Numix icons really match it. Most of the problems were basically, user error starting it up my first time on Arch. But nice job.
Another thing that you said, Steve, it's your first Arch install. That's awesome, and I want to just jump in and say that Silent. I mean, like, we're just we're a little bit over halfway through with the people talking about it, but this OS, this distro that you've made, is probably, to me, more stable and better working than half the ones we've tried. So,
yeah, agreed.
Well, that's good. I spent a lot of time on the back end with it.
Yep,
that's very evident.
Mm-hmm. Now, I just
I like the Calamaris installer. At first it started installing. It seemed to be like 20% for quite a while. I blinked and it was like at 80. It went really quick. So sorry to interrupt there, Zeb.
Yeah, the first 13, I guess, to 18% is the bulk of the file system being unsquashed. After that, it's basic configuration and package removal and setting up the user, setting up the locale, things like that. But the bulk of the actual unsquashing is right at the beginning.
Okay.
And that's deliberate so that the rest of it is quick.
And if I could just pick up on a theme here from two of the guys that have got older NVIDIA cards, I've got a funny feeling that's why a lot of distros don't provide the ISO with NVIDIA packed in, because if you've got an older card, installing the 418 driver is absolutely useless. It won't work. You have to go back to, is it the 340 you said, Peter?
340, 107, yes.
Yeah. So And that's why I don't think there's a utility that allows NVIDIA to say, how old am I? I better use this driver. Oh, I'm a new one. We better use this driver. So everybody who's got the newest distros and the newest kit and the newest NVIDIA cards, probably anything above 750, this will work fine. And we all heard that it's Silent's own OS. He's got a 1080 Ti, so he went with a 418. But yeah, it was a nice addition. But I now know why. I think I now know why other people won't use it.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. So,
all right, Yannick, you are up, sir.
Yeah, well, as usual, I didn't really have time to play with the distro, so I'm sorry. This would have been my first Arch install, but maybe I will try this weekend. I don't know. I'll report back if I do.
Well, I would suggest that if you ever want to try an Arch install, that this be the one you try.
Yeah, it seems to be the consensus here tonight.
I mean, no, you know, I don't know, disrespect or no anything to Arco, because Arco Linux is a great install as well. But this, I think, is way better because it feels like it was, I don't know about anybody else, but it feels like it was made for me and my machine of what I'm looking for. A lot of the programs that I would use on a daily basis are already installed. NVIDIA, you know, like everything. So to me, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so if I try, I will report back to you.
There you
or
go.
To Silent directly.
Barbara, did you try it?
What happened was when I first downloaded it after we discussed it last week, it ended up downloading the NVIDIA version, the NVIDIA ISO, and it's like, no, I'm not going to try. I was going to use the live USB first, and I wasn't going to use it on a machine that had an NVIDIA card. And then I was chatting this morning with somebody on Telegram, and somehow either the NVIDIA was the only one that was there at the time, or I clicked the wrong button. I don't know. So I re-downloaded it, but I didn't get a chance to try it. And since my experience with Arch has not been stellar, I was really, really leery. But, you know, I may just look at it this time because everyone seems to say that they really liked it. So that kind of that intrigued me. I'll probably take a look at it using the live USB, which I did download, a non-NVIDIA version.
I think you were just really unlucky to hit Antagos during one of their black spots.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be my luck. Oh, yeah. That was horrible. That was my one and only venture into Arch, and it was horrible.
It's also possible you accessed the SourceForge site at a time when I was refreshing the ISOs.
It might have been because it was last week.
Because there's been quite a lot of refreshes.
Yeah, so I just missed it. So I re-downloaded it this morning, and I did get the non-NVIDIA one. So that I'm going to take a look at it because everyone's saying it's really good. I'll see how it is for me, and maybe this version of, you know, something running that's based on Arch is way better than Antagos was.
Well, by default, Barbara, it doesn't pull from any other than the standard repos. It doesn't pull from the AUR, so you're going to be pretty safe. And the AUR is not enabled out of the box. You have to enable it.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yep, which is part of the reason why it is stable. And we got to talk about that later. Remind me. We got to talk about that very topic. Thomas, you're up, sir.
Okay, so I did try it briefly. And as I promised last week, I did install it on actual hardware for once. I got a wild hair and decided to try playing a game on it. And true to what I typically do, I installed Mindtest. And for some odd reason, I guess it was Mindtest specifically, I was not getting the best performance out of it. And so what would happen is it started out, and I had the settings maxed on it. Started out perfectly fine with 60 FPS. And as it went on, the FPS steadily dropped and then hovered around the 20 to 25 range. And I know with the settings maxed on that computer, I typically hit 30 to 40. But that could have just been, you know, with that specific version of Mindtest, because Normally, I have Debian-based versions of Linux on there, and they're currently running 0416 mind test, whereas Arch apparently uses 0417. Beyond that, I was very happy to see that I had Calamares in there as the installer. I have played around with Arch before, and either they have a really weird installer, or as with vanilla Arch, you have to install it manually. So seeing one that has Calamares made me feel very much at ease. It looked very nice, of course. I also noticed that there was actually a graphical update utility in there, and that was different to me in an Arch-based distro, but I did like that because it seems more like you're trying to cater more towards newer users while at the same time maintaining some of the advantages of running an Arch distro. Overall, if I needed to run Arch, I would heavily prefer to be running this versus vanilla Arch or Arch Labs or something like that. But beyond that, in my personal experience, which hardware wasn't the best, but in my personal experience, I wouldn't use it to game, but that may have just been that specific game. So I would need to test that more. But beyond that, it's a great distro if you're looking for something Arch-based.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Thomas.
Nice. Thank you. And that actually goes against my gaming experience, because my go-to game that I always test these distros on is Rise of the Tomb Raider, because they have a little I forget what they call it now, but you can find out how the game is running and how it's working.
As a built-in benchmark.
That's the words, yeah, benchmark. And Salient OS has, in fact, apart from when I messed with Peppermint and I gave Peppermint the 420 kernel and the 418 drivers, but straight out of the box, Salient OS on my rig, straightforward 1920 display, gives the highest frame rate I get, so 131 frames per second. Peppermint out of the box is 124. Deep in, I think, was 128. So for me, gaming-wise, it's brilliant. I love it. It was great.
The reason I use Mindtest specifically is because the hardware I'm running it on isn't the best. It doesn't have dedicated graphics cards, so running something like Rise of the Tomb Raider or Shadow of the Tomb Raider or something like that, it's not going to happen in a million years. But Mindtest, I know I can run it, and I can run it on any Linux distro, and I can also run it on Windows or Mac if I end up needing to run it on something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cross-platform. It's open source, so I don't have to pay money for it, and I'm familiar with it, so I know what to expect most of the time.
Yeah, and if it's your go-to tester, then you know the frame rate you can expect. You know how smoothly it can run. So that's cool. That's cool.
The only thing that I didn't mention was that so at this point, that specific computer does not have an OS on it. It ended up getting nuked as I was trying to alpha test in ISO, and for some odd reason, it's still showing up in my UEFI menu. So I don't know what's going on there, but I guarantee you it's not there anymore. Parrot's still in there too, though. So
yeah, you can remove that with the EFI manager.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just weird.
Yeah, but it's a weirdness I have as well, because I've still got about 3 in my UEFI manager that I know I've blattered. So how are they still on?
Yeah, I think it's down to the BIOS you've got in your system, whether they retains them or nukes them.
So how do you nuke them out of the BIOS then? Because they really wind me up.
Using EFI manager in the terminal.
Been there, seen it, done it. They're still there.
Works for me.
Anyway, I'm like Rocco then. I've got a funny machine.
I definitely got a funny machine.
Yeah. Joe, welcome.
Hello.
Did you get a chance to try Salient?
How's that?
There you
go.
Actually, I
Perfect.
had it on a VM the week before you decided to do this challenge, and Silent would probably
kind of remember that. There was a live stream that was going on. I don't remember if it was EVs or whose it was. And we were all loading. There were people loading it up in a VM, and some were having issues. And I said, mine loaded up fine. And, you know, unfortunately, I didn't give it as much screen time as I would like. I'm still kind of behind on my books for the end of the year from last year, but that's not a super excuse. But Silent, do me a favor. Take whatever I say with a grain of salt here, buddy, because I'm not really an Arch user. I've done, you know, some Arch distros in the past, just playing with them a little bit, but it's never been something that grabs me right now. So it's, you know, it's just, I'm just like the new guy that has had no exposure to this or very limited. So just take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, please.
It's all good, Joe. No worries.
Yeah. My laptop here, I can't compare NVIDIA drivers, things like that, because it's an Intel. It's just a straightforward off-the-shelf laptop. The thing that I found interesting comparing to the VM install is I got a message that popped up on here. Computer does not satisfy some recommended requirements for installing Salient OS 2019.2. So apparently there's some hardware on here it didn't seem to like. And I was starting to wonder if some of it wasn't the touchpad, because I know that Steve had mentioned he was having issues with the touchpad, which it sounds like he since may have gotten worked out. I haven't. It doesn't really seem to be liking the touchpad. I noticed that my Windows button is not mapped. And me being, again, unfamiliar with this, maybe it's just not knowing how to map it. So these are things that I think maybe spending more time on, I can try to figure out. But the touchpad, I'm not sure what's going on with that. I will say the touch screen works phenomenal, the touch screen support. When it did load, you know, installing, even with that error or that message popping up, I don't know if you want to call it an error, it loaded just as well as it did in the VM. I know it gets to about 20 to 23%. It kind of, like you mentioned earlier about it doing its the brunt of its loading, and it seems like it just hangs. And I think for somebody that might be new to this, maybe putting some kind of an on-screen message, or maybe if there is one, I might have missed it, but an on-screen message saying, you know, be patient, you know, it's doing the brunt of its, you know, uncompressing or whatever it's doing. And then, because as soon as it got past that, boom, it flew. It got right in there, and it installed very nicely. I do think the appearance is beautiful. I think it's really a nice, pleasant-looking distro. The other thing that I tried to do was set up my wireless printer, and I was doing it while we were on here, and I've been struggling with it, and I couldn't get it to show up on the network. I finally found out where to find it, but the drivers I need aren't in there. So again, being completely unfamiliar with this, I don't know how to locate the drivers for what I need right now. And again, playing with this may be one of those things that is what it's going to take. I did notice too that I don't remember which specific ones, but there were a couple applications I went in, which sometimes I noticed with XFCE, I've mentioned this on other distros, you'll get like a distorted looking font. And I know sometimes it's taking away the hinting or whatever. All my fonts look great, but there were only a couple of different things with tooling around in here that popped up like that, where they looked like they were just distorted is the best way I could describe it. And I'm not sure, or unclear. I'm not sure what that was all about. And the only other thing too I noticed is, like, even with trying to do the printer or other things, I'm not used to, I mean, I'm used to having to enter in my password fairly frequently, but this seems like it's more so than most distros. And that might just be an Arch thing, again, me not being familiar with it. So, you know, but I think if it was one of these things that, you know, you take the time to really look at and learn, I think this is a phenomenal distro. I think you did a fabulous job. The look of it's nice. There's a lot of great software in there out of the gate. So I think somebody coming to Arch, this would be a really good choice. Even for me, I'm curious about it. But, you know, the thing is with us doing these every week, there's so many you want to play with, but taking the time to do it, you know yourself, there's only so much time in the day. And I've always just kind of gravitated toward Ubuntu distros, you know, base distros or Debian, that kind of thing. So maybe it's time to kind of look out of the box down the road and give it a little bit more time. But this would definitely be a second look at me. I think you did a great job overall. So for coming from somebody who's completely unfamiliar with it.
Nice. Just a quick tip for you there, Joe. Were those programs that you were getting dodgy fonts on, were they any Qt applications by any chance?
I honestly don't recall which ones. I should have wrote notes. I wrote notes on everything else, and that's the one thing I forgot to write a note on. So
I never
I could
write.
drop it in Telegram or something if I play with it again and see it happen.
It's just that most ISOs nowadays will have Qt5 settings, and the one that I always have to go in and play with is QBitTorrent, because if I just leave it native, it looks really strange to the rest of the distro. It doesn't on this particular distro, but on a lot of others have, and that's when I found this Qt5 settings. So if you're going to have a play with that, then restart your application. You might find it looks a bit better. It may not be that. Hey, that's just me guessing.
Is the mapping of the super key? Like I said, it's not there by default, and I don't know why. On most distros, I don't have a problem with that. Is it something that's easily done, or is there a reason why it's not mapped?
It is easily done, and it was an oversight, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I fixed mine in like 2 seconds once and then thanks to Peter. He said, "Here's dummy. Here's how to do it."
Yeah, I use those there is a drop-down menu when you go in to look for it, but everything I tried didn't seem to activate the touchpad. But the key, the super key, to me is a big one because I use that all the time to open up the menu and just start typing. So, and if it's just a simple thing to activate it, that's fine. But maybe it's something then, with giving feedback that you could just kind of adjust and have it mapped out of the gate.
And what was the printer model you were trying to get running?
It's Brother MFC 7860 DW. I notice on most distros when I load them up, they show it as a 7840, but it'll still pull a CUPS driver in that'll load up to 7860 drivers.
Okay.
And I'm not overly worried about that particular one because technically this one, even though it works well with most of my Linux distros, if you look at some of the Linux compatible printer sites, they call this one a brick anyway, but they call a lot of them a brick that still work. So, and I think they do that mostly because the scanner on it is where more of the issues are. The printing isn't really an issue. The printing's usually great. So, because even a generic printer wouldn't pull it in. So,
okay, thanks, Joe.
Cool. All right, JJ, you're up.
How's it going, you guys? So, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey me, of course, but to keep this short, no, I didn't test a distro. I've been experimenting on my own with a little bit of a Ubuntu budgie, and so far I'm falling in love with it. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. Thanks very much. Eric.
Hey. So I don't have a ton to add. I have little things. I will say that unfortunately I didn't get a chance to test it on hardware in between laptops. I just finally got a new one. I had to donate mine to my wife. Hers died, and so I graciously just decided to fulfill it. So besides being a
no pressure at all, right?
No.
Obviously.
So I did get an XPS 15, which is a lovely machine. It's great with Linux, which is one of the reasons I got it. And I've always gotten Dells. I'm just boring that way. So anyway, so I haven't had a chance to spin up Salient on it yet, which I plan to do. So a couple things that I did notice while I was doing this from a virtual machine. So the login screen, I don't know if anyone else ran into this. The first time that you boot after installing, you have to click on the robot guy to get your user for the box that's there to give you a password prompt. The box that's there is not your password prompt initially. And it confused the heck out of me for like 5 minutes. Like I literally just was sitting there typing my password going, I know I'm typing this right. And I finally figured out you click on the guy, then it shows your username, then you type your password. So dumb little thing. I have no idea if there's a way to fix that so that it doesn't do that, or that make it more obvious that the box that's there is not a password box to start with.
Yeah, it's an awkward one. That it's a known SDDM issue, which is why I've swapped out SDDM now with LightDM.
Gotcha. All right. Well, dumb little thing,
because I can't foresee the user that's going to be logging in, so I can't pre-enable that.
Gotcha.
So it's a quirk with SDDM. You have to click on the avatar first, then it presents the username. Click it again, and then it highlights the next entry box.
Okay, and that's the behavior I saw. And then I also noticed that after you've done that one time,
it
the next
remembers.
time it remembers. So
Yeah.
it's only ever that first boot.
That's right.
Okay.
If
All
I
right.
could jump in real quick, that's what I was talking about earlier with the having to click on the user twice. Do you know if that's if you have multiple users on the system, if they have to click on the robot then their name, or is that only for the initial user logon?
Only for the initial user logon.
Okay.
And that may be true for each new user that has to log in.
Right. Okay.
But after that, it remembers, and it's done it with every single theme I tried. Every single one has reacted the same. You have to click the avatar first, which is why I've opted to go back to Light DM.
Yeah, I like DM. So.
Gotcha. And I actually helped someone in the BDLL group.
The Telegram group?
The Telegram group, yeah, to switch over because they like having the GUI to change the backgrounds and things in Light DM, which SDDM, I can't remember if there is one or not. Anyway, so I went through that as well. I mean, everything's very modular. It's obviously Arch based. I have experience with Arch. I've run Arch in the past. I've run Manjaro and Antargos and all of the Arch runoffs, Chaos, all of those sort of things. Not Chaos. What was the other K one? Anyway, so just a couple other just really small observations. The custom terminal is awesome. I'm such a sucker for that kind of stuff. Like, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. The prompt, yeah. So one thing that kind of blew me, was really threw me off, was the bottom panel is not a dock. It's launchers, right? So my mind said, oh, this is a dock. So I kept clicking. Right, I'm clicking and then I'm realizing up in the top, oh, I've got 16 copies of the terminal open because I just keep launching new ones every single time, thinking it's a dock where I'm clicking the icon and it's going to raise the already open window versus opening a new one. So that was a little confusing to me that it was a panel dock or a panel launcher instead of a dock. Now, obviously, once you train your mind to say, okay, this is not a dock, it's a launcher, it's fine. But just, I think for someone new who maybe is used to the way, let's say, Mac works or some of the other docks like Plank or Docky or something like that, it's a little confusing. So just, a little bit of, and I don't even know if it's.
Yeah, that's a fair comment.
I think that's a really good comment. And I think what makes it worse is up where you've got your little triangle for the menu, you only have an icon appear. You don't have the icon and the name.
Yeah, right.
So I think if you'd seen that icon and the name, you'd go, oh, it's up there in the normal place, and I'll click that, and it would keep bringing it back. So that's the first thing I do. I go in there and I go into that window thing, and I go icon and text, because then I can see all my icon. Because I'd never know what icon is which when I'm looking at it, and I think, eeny, meeny, miny, no, that's not it. And I end up going through them all. So I always put the text up there. So that was a good thing to point, Eric.
And that's really it. I mean, that's the extent I had to work with it. You have a great selection of, a lot of the apps that you put in there, and you can tell it's someone who built it from their own use, right? Instead of just a general distro that's trying to be all things to all people. It's someone who's, producing content or playing games or, and that's, to me, that's great because it gets me started where I probably would want to be. Because normally when I do something like an Ubuntu install or something like that, I choose that minimal installation because there's too much stuff on there that I'll never use. And I would much rather just add the stuff I want. But in this case, the things that you already had there were really along those same lines of something that I would install anyway. So that, for me, that I appreciate something like that. And that's all I had. So thanks.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that, everybody's kind of seeing is that there's that personal touch involved in making it. So, well, welcome, Eric, to Biddle.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dan, you're up, brother.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Where you been, man?
That thing called real life has gotten the best of me here lately.
Sheesh.
But I'm here. And I did try Salient a little bit. Excellent. I really enjoyed it. It was the theming on it is absolutely wonderful, and it doesn't have the normal XFCE feel to it. So that was pretty great. lot of people have been talking about Calamari's and how when you get to the unsquashing part that it just kind of like feels like it's frozen. That's pretty much true for everybody and every distro. It's just the way the installer goes, but and it doesn't seem to matter how much horsepower you have behind it. Everybody's just kind of woes up there for a little bit, and then it takes right off. So it's kind of a standard theme, I guess. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's the probably one of the best installers going for sure. It's very user friendly, and everybody can make their way through it with no problems. The OS is wonderful. I didn't have as much time as I would like, and it's definitely something I'm probably going to go back to at some point and use again. So I mean, some of these things that we test on a weekly basis, they're no goes, and you'll probably never go back to it. And then there's some of them that you might go back to. So this is definitely in that category where it was worthy of another use. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've got to say. I really did enjoy it though.
Yeah, I definitely think it's in that category. All right, Dave, Dreaming Wolf is not going to be here. He was in the YouTube chat. He said he's getting on a plane to go back home, but he did send me a couple thoughts on here. He said he used Salient for a week now on his laptop, and for his use case, it's been perfect. He says, I haven't done much in terms of changing the theme, but haven't hit a snag anywhere in what I do, gaming, web surfing, and coding. So it will be staying on my laptop, and I'll be trying it on my desktop to get how it plays with NVIDIA.
Very nice. Mm.
All right, Ritual. Ritual. Can I speak?
Hey, guys.
Ritual. What's going on, brother?
Not too much. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty good.
Good to see you guys again.
Good, man.
All right, so I'll try to keep this short. This is kind of my first official review, so a little nervous. Overall, I mean, I guess I should preface it with I am an Arch user myself, so I might be a little biased.
You forgot to say by the way, but
oh yeah, by the way, of course. Is that still a thing? Can we say that? But I mean, besides that, I really like the distro. I thought it was, for me, it ran pretty smooth. I installed it. I didn't install it on Metal, and so I did it in VirtualBox, and I didn't do, I mean, what I tried was mostly superficial. So I didn't really delve into, like, I'm looking at trying to get into NVIDIA settings right now, and it's not letting me do that right in VirtualBox. So I didn't really troubleshoot any of that sort of stuff. I'm not much of a gamer myself, so it's not too big of a deal for me. But like I said, it's not on bare metal, so it could be totally different. But as far as what I did test out, it was mostly superficial. Like the theming aspects of it, I thought were awesome. I guess you guys have already mentioned the prompt, the bash prompt. I like that custom, that Powerline look, even though it's not Powerline, which I like is Pureline, which is better than Powerline if you ask me, because it's just a bash script.
It's just pure bash, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. I don't see that too often. It was kind of nice. I like seeing that Cavantum was in there to kind of, your theming was system-wide was pretty much, I mean, pretty nice. Like there was no apps that would blare white at me, flash white at me out of the blue. Like everything seemed pretty uniform. So that was awesome. I'm sure that maybe you use Cavantum to do a lot of the QT application.
I did, yeah. Set up a rule for the most common Qt5 apps that people would probably use out of the box there, and gave them a default theme.
Yeah, I just learned about that a couple of days ago. I was watching one of Eric Dubois' videos, and well, no, I was trying to theme VirtualBox. I'm learning VirtualBox here because I haven't been running that, or I've been messing with that somewhat regularly recently, but not for very long. So I wanted to theme it dark because I don't like the white theme on VirtualBox. I don't know if that's a version 6 problem that it has, but yeah, I tried looking at that Kvantum to try to, but I couldn't figure it out. So you did a much better job than what I couldn't figure it out. Let's see. Oh, that function. I don't know if you added some sort of function to auto list after you in the terminal to auto list after you go into a directory. I thought that was cool. I don't know how you did that, but I was kind of looking to try to figure it out, but I couldn't. I didn't see anything in your bash RC or your bash profile. The Kitty terminal. I like seeing the Kitty terminal on the system. Although I'm not exactly sure. I mean, if I know it's like a personal project of yours, so I thought that was cool, but I'm not sure. I mean, how many people need more than one terminal? But that's just me. I like that it was only on VirtualBox it was doing a little over 330 megabytes after a fresh boot, so that was awesome. I like seeing ALSI and NeoFetch. You see a lot of NeoFetch everywhere. I don't see too much ALSI, but I thought it looked great in the terminal. Everything in the terminal was awesome. I'm not too sure, like on the user, like the new user aspect of getting the pure line going or power line, because sometimes the fonts are kind of wonky to try to, like a lot of fonts aren't compatible with power line or pure line.
That's
So
true.
That could maybe throw new users for a loop. But I mean, and there's no problems here. I loved it. And on the topic of how it's a kind of a personal thing for you, like I noticed it. I just thought it was funny to see that in the X resources, you still had your UX or URXVT config in the X resources, but I didn't see the terminal installed in it, or that actual terminal. So I thought that was cool. I was getting a weird prompt delay. Excuse me. Whenever I would list anything in the terminal, like list in a directory, I would list something or search for or ask it to list something for me, and there'd be like a 2-second delay for the prompt to reappear. I'm not sure if maybe that was my particular install on VirtualBox or whatever, but that was a weird quirk that I noticed. I like that Yay was ready out of the box, the AUR helper. That was awesome. People mentioned about the login, the SDDM, that little quirk in the beginning. I had to click on the robot. Same here, but I'm guessing that's pretty standard. Did you already change to LightDM like within the past week?
The next build is going to be LightDM. I've just actually built that this evening to test it.
Oh, okay.
And that's working nicely now. So yeah, I'm switching out SDDM.
Awesome. I like LightDM. I'm using for my login manager, or I'm using that, but I'm using a LightDM Mini, which is really, really minimal, small type of login screen. Basically just a little box where you log into. And the one thing that I like to see, that I was clicking on tab complete when I was running Pac-Man, and I was like, why is it not working? I thought since tab complete is already functioning, I mean, standardly through the terminal, I was like, well, what's going on? Why is it not? It wasn't, I guess, bash completion, which I've always done when I install Arch. I always install, but I didn't realize that was for Pac-Man. I just did it just out of repetition. That was kind of dumb of me, but I thought it helped to have bash completion maybe installed by default. That's all I got to say. I thought it was awesome. I like the theming on it. It's obvious that you care about that sort of stuff. The applications would probably be awesome for someone that's heavy into media manipulation and whatnot. Yeah, I thought it was cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good feedback.
Just quickly going back to Eric's video that you watched, was that number 2726? Because he does an awful lot of videos, that man. It's ridiculous.
I was like, is this a joke? Because, you know what, it could have been. Maybe it was 3,781. I don't know.
All right, before we go any further, Michael, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about hover and single click. If there was actually an option to change that. I looked around in the settings menu, but I didn't get a chance to pursue it further.
Yes, there is.
Sure, it's probably somewhere.
You do it within Thunar itself. So
Okay.
open the file manager and go to its preferences, and you can change it from single to double.
Gotcha. That was really my only kind of minor thing. Is I don't really like hover to select and all that. So I was looking for that, and I'm like, I'm sure it's somewhere. I just can't find it.
You've called on to my only con for Salient OS. It's double click by default.
Uh-oh.
That's the problem.
It should be single.
It's single click on
Hover
Thunar.
to click, or it's hover and then single click.
Let's not start.
You're such a troll, Rocco.
If it's single click by default, that's reason enough for me not to try it then.
Oh, come on, man.
No,
All right.
I will. I know I can change it.
Literally go Thunar file manager preferences behavior, double click, done.
Job done.
Yep. All right, Prophetic. Did you get to try Salient?
I didn't get a chance to try it, but I become like Barbara, but instead of becoming the best live testing environment person, I'm like the best download ISO person.
Because you download them and don't try them?
Yeah, I don't do anything with them. I just download them and then that's it. So good job, Salient OS, for a great ISO download. Good
For
job.
taking up 2.5 gig of your hard disk space. Love it.
You did a great job at making this ISO available and downloadable. A+ across the board.
You can make an ISO museum.
Very nice. Scrapjaw in the house. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. How you doing?
Awesome. I guess you didn't get to try Salient, huh?
No. As you can see in my room, there's like keyboards and stuff everywhere where I do music all the time. My machine
awesome.
runs, and that's it.
That's it. You just run it.
I just run it, and it's Neon's working fine. Jack works fine, and now I'm on Mixbus.
Nice.
That's my DAW.
Good
Mixbus DAW
choice.
is ridiculous.
Mixbus 5 is awesome.
It is. I would really like to get 32C, but that's a couple $100 I don't have.
Yeah, same as.
But
Yeah, that's
otherwise-
always the problem.
And if I could, a few weeks ago, I just want to thank everybody for helping myself, my family out with any donations. Some people may not know about that, but we totaled a car on a little trip back home from visiting friends, and I didn't know what to do because all of our liquid money was gone. We couldn't get to the bank. It was a Sunday. Everything was gone in tow truck bill, and then fines for banging up a guardrail. So, but people came through and gave us more money than we lost in that, and we put it away towards another car, and we're still dealing with the insurance company that screwed up on their end. And so I have a broken car in the driveway I can't do anything with. I can't fix it. I can't sell it, nothing until the insurance company. But other than that, we're floating again, and we're back on our feet. It's good. So
At
thank
least
you,
you're
everybody.
okay. At least you're okay. That's
At least you're okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yep. Good
It's
to
only
hear.
money. It's only money. Thank God no one got hurt.
That's it.
Yep.
There was
All
one
right.
nice thing to say about the police officers. These two ladies, they didn't even want to give us a ticket for anything because there was no other cars. We just banged up a guardrail. And they're like, but we have to give you a ticket because you hit public property, which ended up like $204. I was like, well, it could have been worse. At least it was local cops and not state highway patrol because those guys are a whole nother ballgame. They'd have gone over us with fine tooth comb.
That's true.
But enough of that. Thanks, guys. This community was like the first thing I thought of when I pulled up my PayPal. Like, who do I send this to? I was like, those guys do donations all the time. It's nothing for them. So, but it doesn't mean nothing to me. Just want you to know that. Awesome.
All right. I think we forgot to ask Silent Robot how he likes Salient OS.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not
all
bad.
right. For a new distro, it's fine.
For a noob, I think I did all right.
Rocco, if I could, Silent, I did find out where, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Anyway, I've got the settings manager up, but on the bottom where it says all settings, What it looks like to me, when I said those fonts look like they're kind of distorted, what it looks like is almost like they're reversed. Like you've got black in the front and white in the back, at least on this computer. And then when I noticed on that panel on the bottom, like if I right click on, let's say, the terminal, the word launcher, it's almost like the highlight buttons that you're clicking on, they reverse.
Yeah, Joe, they are ghosted out items.
Pardon me?
They're ghosted out items. Once you've got the panel open, the settings panel, you can't click all settings because you're viewing all settings.
Correct. Yeah.
So that button becomes disabled.
All right, and that's what I was wondering what it was, because it just, for whatever reason, on the not that this is the same high DPI as on my 34-inch, but I noticed on these monitors too, and XFCE in general does that. So obviously then that's kind of some relief, because it's nothing wrong with the distro. Then it's just, I don't know if it was a theming thing or if it was just me. So that answers it.
That's just the disabled state of the button. If you were to click appearances now, you'll see that button gets corrected.
Yep.
All right. Silent, that your distro is a big hit, brother. I'm sorry. It's one of the top pros on the distros we've tried. So I appreciate the work, man.
Well, I really appreciate the feedback. It's going to help me create an even better build for the next version.
Nice. All right. So this is the time where we pick another distro.
Puppy's been getting a lot of love lately.
Yeah, Puppy. Yeah. Okay.
Just throwing it out there.
I have a suggestion. I don't know if everybody wants to go for it, but I suggest that we just take a break for a week.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And enjoy our distro that we're on.
Yeah, sure.
Which one?
Whatever we're on.
Whatever distro you love the most, that's what you should try this week.
Yeah, which one? Oh
my gosh.
It's child. I mean, well, whoops, I shouldn't be saying that after the last few weeks of distro reviews. I shouldn't be saying that.
But if you don't do one this week, is it next week the Europe biddle?
Yes. But we'll still have a regular biddle at 9 or 8. So we will have a Europe. And that reminds me, Paul, good thinking. Next week is Biddle Europe edition, second Saturday of the month. So 3 p.m. Eastern time, whatever time that happens to be, wherever you're at. There you go. But we will still have a regular 8 p.m. Eastern Biddle as well.
Okay.
Woot.
I don't know,
Rocco, instead of doing a distro, could we some application or some group, some type of app, some kind of category of applications?
What do you suggest, Barb?
I have no idea, but I just thought I'd throw it out.
We could tackle the age-old best text editor.
Oh God!
Oh God!
Yeah.
How about the alternative messaging platforms?
It's going to end very badly. The text editor thing.
It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's very.
We're going to have half of us saying nano, half of us saying
that's almost as bad as saying single click or double click, right?
Yeah.
I think that if we're going to do something like that, it has been mentioned before about software applications. And I think if we're going to do that, we should probably try it kind of like the distro challenge where we all try the same program. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to have everybody's going to be talking about something different. And I don't know if that's going to accomplish anything. The idea is to try something and compare it to something else, or try it and, see if it's the best one out of whatever it may be. So
maybe like a browser. I
was thinking maybe more like looking at one of the popular ones like GIMP and comparing 2.8 versus 2.10 as a flat pack or snap or whatever you want to use it, and see what the differences might be in your experiences with it. Because I noticed there can be some depending on the distro or the machine too, for whatever reason.
Well, I think it should be more generic because.
What about Rocco? What about a because I know I've been looking at different ones, choosing one of those note applications, whether it be Cherry Tree or Simple Note or Standard Notes or
that's a good one.
or Joplin yet.
Or Joplin or
Puppy.
I think that's perfectly
I've
fine.
got like 6 of them sitting over here.
Well, the reason I say not, about like what you're talking about, Joe, with GIMP, is because not everybody uses GIMP.
Okay.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna edit. I mean, yeah, I've used GIMP and I use it. I used to use it more than they do now, but half the people might not even open GIMP and want to try it.
That's true.
And as far as browsers, that's way too personal. Way too personal.
Yeah, because I can kill that off straight away. Let's all use Epiphany.
Yeah, exactly. So
Ice Weasel, baby.
Falcon is my jam.
Maybe choose one of the note-taking apps.
Well, my favorite is Standard Notes.
I do like that one.
That is my favorite. So
Honestly, I don't use a note-taking app. I just make text files in a folder in my Dropbox.
Well, if you don't use a note-taking app, that would be a good time to try one.
Yeah.
But what's the point when my Dropbox works perfectly fine?
Because you
Because
might
it's
find
a
that
Dropbox and it's unencrypted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have nothing that needs to be encrypted on there. I'm fine with it being unencrypted.
Well, Thomas, you might find that Standard Notes or another note app taking thing is if you try it, you might find that it's better. Just like you try these distros and you find, whoa, this is pretty cool.
Fair enough.
To get to your next note, you've got to go back to Dropbox, double-click the file. Let's say you was on your mobile looking at them, yeah? Whereas if you're in a note-taking application, you just scroll through the list, tap the one you want, and it's there instantly.
And to be
Are
fair,
we all going to try different note-taking apps?
No.
That won't
choose
work.
one. Okay.
That won't work. We just choose whatever one we choose and then we'll run with that.
Okay, the ones that are out there, there's Cherry Tree, which I know a lot of people have been using. I've used it. There's QO Notes, which is okay. Obviously, Simple Note doesn't have a lot of the other features, but it's totally cross-platform. There's
Zim.
Standard Notes, there's Joplin, and there's Zim.
Yeah.
ZIM, which is more of like a wiki generator, but it's really good for note taking. Because I found for some of the stuff I do at work, it's much better than any of the others.
Super fast.
For what I need to do.
How many of you take notes using something like Telegram or something and sending them back to yourself?
I do all the time,
I
dude.
do that every time with my iMessage, yes.
That is so bad. That's so terrible. But
I do.
There's a reason why there's a saved messages channel in Telegram.
My saved messages is so full of stuff that I don't even look at that I know I want to look at some point, but
you can search it too, which is nice.
Yeah.
An old curmudgeon.
Probably not a lot of people know about it as well, but you can actually save notes in Bitwarden.
Oh,
really? I did not know that, Zeb.
Hold on. Find
the
it.
only problem is when you view them, you're limited to what you can see. So it's not as like you can expand the whole thing and see it in Standard Notes or Joplin. It is only a little 3-bar. At least that's
that's true.
The toolbar.
Yeah,
But-
that's true. Sorry, Zeb. That's true from the toolbar. But if you have the desktop app, which they have, you can see it as a full note.
Oh right, well that's it then. I'm done. Everything's dropped. Because
I've done that. I've done that for years.
And your text files, yeah.
Yeah, I've used that for years. So I switched over from LastPass and I use Bitwarden for everything now. And so for like product codes, like key codes and stuff like that, I do a lot of, web development. So I'll do all my key codes for stuff that I buy. And
that's a good idea, Eric. That is such a good idea.
So I'll let you guys know now. I didn't do the challenge next week. I'm with Bitwarden.
Well, okay, so there you go. Why don't we make Bitwarden the challenge for next week? A dual feature, note-taking and password manager.
Okay, I already have that. Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything. Just
I just downloaded Bitwarden recently, so it'd be nice to try and actually configure it and figure out how to use it.
And it does have the desktop app, so it's not like you can't try it.
It's an app image.
It's also available as a snap.
It's also available on mobile. So you got that.
And it's
Can you use it without
it works. It just works.
Yes, Yannick, you are exactly right. It just works.
It just works.
I just find that no matter what what note taker, Evernote, or anything like that. I put it on the system, it stays on my phone for about 2 years, and I say I never use it, so I delete it.
Well, so then there's your dual purpose. You're doing more than one thing. If you can use it for saving passwords, generating passwords, and saving notes.
Well, let me ask you a question, Eric. I have Bitwarden and have used it for a long time. I don't generate passwords through Bitwarden, not because it doesn't work well, but because I'm kind of leery about not knowing the password.
Yeah.
Is that something that you I mean, do you use the generator?
I don't know any of my passwords. Swear to God. I know the master password to Bitwarden. Yeah, I know that's not true. I do know 3 or 4 key accounts. Like I know those passwords. I've made them up. I've made up complex passwords that I can remember.
Right.
Every other website in the world, I'm using the auto-generate 16 length, full mixed character. Everything.
Yeah.
Nothing that I could ever remember. And it's fantastic. Now, the other thing with the Bitwarden, why I switched away from LastPass is they do the two-factor authentication codes.
Yep.
And it's really slick because if you have a website where you're doing that, it'll automatically copy it into your clipboard. So you log in, and then the next screen where it presents you with the code, you just hit Control V, bam, it's right there. You're in. It is so easy. I used to do the authenticator on my phone. And it was such a pain to I'm trying to log in. My phone's not around me. I got to go figure out where my phone is. Like Bitwarden has made my life like so much easier. And for $10 a year, I mean, you can use it for free, but if you use it, please support these guys because I don't ever want to see them go away.
I know. The major advantage, I think, of Bitwarden over LastPass is that you can self-host your server.
Yep. I was just going to say that we're looking actually looking at doing that at work. Hosting our own Bitwarden.
That's what I did. I've got my own instance.
Yeah, I mean that way we'd still have access to it if we didn't have access to the internet for some reason.
Yeah,
we'd still have a local copy of it.
Can we save all this commentary for next week?
Hey, Johnny, can we not interrupt people while they're talking, please?
Sorry.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dan.
I'll try to save some for next week. But yeah, no,
quick
absolutely. I think it's got some good features that we'll probably all be able to enjoy.
All right.
I was gonna ask Eric real quick. What do you think about things automatically like knowing what your clipboard has and automatically pasting things? Like I just feel weird about my clipboard being used as like a holding spot for passwords. Like any security ways to like mitigate that, or what's your thoughts on that?
If you use an autofill, it's not actually pasting that. It's not copying that into your clipboard. It's just putting that straight into the browser itself. I'm almost sure that's true. I'll double check now that I said that, and I'm probably wrong.
I think you're right, Eric.
I think I'm right that it does it puts it straight in, and that's the point of the extension, the browser extension is it's
extension. Okay, got
it is putting the two-factor code, which is the 6-digit numeric value, into your clipboard because that's how you're then pasting it in. But that's not something that's really, I mean, it changes every 60 seconds, so it's not really sensitive data in that sense. I mean, if there was a man in the middle, theoretically, but
that's where it comes to mind. But yeah,
if you can hack in 60 seconds with a man in the middle attack, then I'm probably already gone. Like,
well, if they can do that, then they've probably already got a keylogger and they've already got your master
Yeah.
password. And
But you actually mentioned a really dirty word there for me, two-factor authentication, because I had a really, really bad experience.
Oh my gosh!
With one of these little puppies.
A
YubiKey.
Yeah.
I tried to use it to put two-factor authentication on my Google account, and then was promptly locked out for 4 days while Google verified it was me.
more like a key.
Yeah, exactly. It works. It works great on Discord and about 3 other sites, but for Google, just did not want to know. So I just use it now for the 4 sites that I've got. I use it connected to my phone. I don't connect it to the PC because the other thing that it did was it completely trashed my Peppermint install, and I couldn't log in anymore because it wouldn't accept the password. Even when I put the YubiKey in and touched it, didn't want to know.
Yeah.
So just be wary, guys. If you're an old fogey like me who doesn't read the manual, don't use it.
For some reason, I have trouble with the two-factor authentication apps like what is it, Authy and those type of apps where I'm locked out of my EA account because it was generated with an Authy thing, two-factor code, and now I don't know, since maybe a phone switch or whatever, I didn't have anything backed up, so I reinstall Authy and nothing's there. So it wants me to give it a two-factor authentication code that I don't have.
Whoa! Who's taking a bath?
So I'm just muted.
It wants the two-factor authentication code that I don't have and can't give it to it. So now I'm locked out of my account.
So Rocco, when you try Bitwarden, I mean, you already have it.
I already have it.
It is a premium feature for the two-factor, just so folks know. So if you're going and getting just the free version, you won't have access to that unless they've changed it. That was one of the reasons that sort of pushed me over the fence to buy it.
Just out of curiosity with that, let's say like there's a computer, well, my desk computer at work. I have multi-factor authentication, but what it is that it's a push message through Duo that I have to reply to. It's not something that I can just put a code in or anything like that. So I'm assuming that this wouldn't work on that.
No, this is like Rocco was saying, instead of using like Google Authenticator, LastPass has a version of that, or Authy, or there's a handful out there. This just incorporates that functionality into the UI itself, and so it has its own sort of ticking. You know how that it's every 60 seconds it's ticking, it's regenerating.
Yeah, it's like semantic VIP.
Yeah, exactly. So what it's doing is it has that same engine running in the background, and so I think it's TOTP is the standard or something. Anybody that uses that sort of authentication method, two-factor, and you're right, I have a lot of accounts, like so Google accounts will want to use your device, or my bank wants to text me, or so not everything is going to fit into that TOTP. I think I'm saying that right, authentication, but any of them.
More importantly, it's not going to interfere with it.
No, it won't interfere. No, because you still need your username and password to get to the second stage of where it wants to send you the authentication. So.
And Bitwarden is one of the ones that plays ball with the YubiKey. It does it very well.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you've turned me off to that, so I'll definitely never be trying it.
No, don't. Unless, I mean, the silly thing is, Ryan did it, Dusk Geek, and he's just worked straight off the bat. Maybe it's because he's more technically competent than I am, but hey,
I did it, and it worked for a certain period of time, and then I took it off and I can't remember exactly why, but I did have an issue with it, so I did take it off.
You know what he'll say, Zab? It's because he's Team Red. That's why it works.
Yeah, probably. Yawn.
All right. So is everybody good with trying out Bitwarden?
Sure. Yeah.
I think sounds good.
It'll accept my default password of PA $$WORD, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
I thought that was W0D.
Well,
I'll change it to that.
Don't tell anybody, but
is that the one you changed from admin?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought it was admin.
If you've been listening long enough, you know that the password is monkey1. Just
Eric's secret password. Does anybody know?
All right, so I just want to say before we go any further before we leave this topic, Bitwarden will be awesome for everybody to try. I'm wondering if the notes part of it will be up to par on an actual note-taking app, but I mean, we should definitely still try it, but I don't know if it's going to be up to par on that. So
it doesn't matter what platform we try it on.
Nah, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this will give us a break from. This will give us a break. Maybe our grub a break. That's what it'll do.
And it's an app image. That's
instead of breaking grub.
Yeah, Deb's point. If you're trying to take notes through the browser, so the browser extension itself is just a little pop-up. And as soon as it loses focus, it goes away, which is really annoying, and it won't save your changes. So if you're using Firefox, there's the sidebar, And you can open the extension as part of the sidebar, and then it does stay as part of the window, and you can't accidentally close it. Those two things, so if you're not using Firefox and you're just using the extension, it's probably not going to be a great experience. But if you try the app image desktop application, the note taking is going to be probably a little better. Now, it's still very basic. It's just plain text. There's not going to be, it's not like notebooks where you've got tags and all the different things. So Rocco's probably right. I mean, it's not a replacement for what you'd consider, I use Joplin for my notes because it does have all those things, tags and nested notes and all that.
All right. So I just wanted to come back to a subject we had touched on earlier, and that was obviously we're talking about Salient, talking about Arch, and mentioned the AUR. And there was an email sent to us by Steve, who sent quite a few emails so far. And basically he asked the question, or maybe wants to throw the topic out there for everybody to talk about, is Arch and the AUR. It's like a catch-22, because most people who talk about Arch will say that the AUR is the best thing about Arch. And then yet the Arch community itself doesn't really support the AUR, and will tell you that it's basically a Wild West show where anybody can upload anything, and they don't officially support the AUR. So what do you guys say?
What is the alphabet soup AUR?
Arch user repository.
Okay.
I have an opinion.
Go ahead.
So it's like anything, right? Once you get outside of the original maintainer's sphere of influence and control, anybody can do anything, right? So PPAs are a great example. Everyone who makes this argument about the AUR, PPAs are the same exact thing. You know what you're getting into. If you go outside of that repository that's sacred by and kept by the distribution, you got to know what you're doing, make a backup, all that kind of stuff. AUR for a popular application like Zoom is a great example. If you wanted to go to the AUR right now, Zoom is on there. You can download the package build. You look at it. They're not complicated. They're really not. And now I understand. I'm a technical person, so for me to say that is probably unfair, because for a non-technical person, AUR can be a very scary place because you have to do some due diligence. And I can liken this to a distro that is a rolling release versus a static release. Kind of the same thing. Like, you have to know what you're doing when you push update, just like the AUR. You have to know what you're doing. So the first thing I do is go to that AUR package page and look at the comments. And if there are comments that are all, hey, thanks, this is great, or there's nothing that's, wow, this completely worked my system, in most cases you're probably okay to take a stab at it. If you look on there and you see there's a bunch of problems, then yeah, you're going to have problems too. So it takes a little bit of extra time to go through and make sure you're doing the right thing. But ultimately, the fact that someone took their time, packaged it, and in most cases, I've found everything I've ever looked for or needed on the AUR. And as opposed to something like having to add an extra PPA or a repository or downloading a deb file from God knows where, it's very similar. It's just a slightly different approach to it. So,
well, I think you're exactly right that it's the same type of principle as the PPA versus the AUR. I think what Steve's point was more, though, that the catch-22 comes between the fact that people praise Arch for the AUR, and yet the actual Arch community doesn't want you to use the AUR. And that's where the confusion comes in.
But do they really? Because they're hosting it. I mean, that's kind of a...
Maybe they don't want to deal with the problems from it.
That's a logic that they want to deal, because it isn't controlled by them. It's controlled by users. So they don't want to deal with it because that's too much work for too little payoff.
Well, they basically make it very clear that they won't support it. They won't support you if you have a problem with it. It's up to you.
The difficulty I have is most people won't do what you've done, Eric, and go and look at the website, go and look at all the comments, go and look at this and that. They'll just see it as an extension to PAMAC.
Yep.
It's given me this program and it's rubbish, and it didn't work.
So I find it funny how the Arch folks won't support the AUR, yet if you have a problem with, say, a Windows machine and you've installed things from all over the web, they'll still support your Windows machine. The fact that you have things installed extra doesn't really make a big difference wherever you got them from. They'll still work with them.
But see, Arch, I mean, you have to keep in mind too their mentality. Sorry, Adam, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
That they very much squarely position themselves as being more of a sort of hardcore. You have to know what you're doing. Here's the instructions. The Arch Wiki is probably one of the greatest single repositories of information on Linux in general on the web, and it's very well maintained. Most of the information that's in there is very accurate, and you can use it on any distro in many cases.
So you're saying it's RTFM mostly?
Absolutely. And that's Arch's perspective, which if you look at Silent, he's taking something that is otherwise difficult to approach, and as you've seen in this group tonight, anyone can, and I don't, maybe that was the wrong way to say that.
No, you're right. Anyone can install it.
Yeah, anyone can pick it up and install it, and all of a sudden you're running Arch, right? And that's so someone has done that heavy lifting for you, and that's the same thing with Manjaro and Antergos and the other ones. So to say that it's not supported by Arch, yes, that's probably true. But Arch doesn't really, I can't say that they support anything, really, other than it was a blatant bug that you can bring to them to say, look, your package is broken or something like that. If what they do in the forum is considered support, okay.
It seems like people seem to think that the distro is like some end-all be-all support structure, whereas nobody really goes to upstream, and that's Arch doesn't really change anything in their packaging or anything on the AUR, obviously. And it seems that if you have an issue with an AUR package, you would want support from the packager or from the upstream project. But people tend to just go right to the distro, and it's like, well, because it's running on Arch, it must be Arch's problem. But that's not always the case.
If you go to the AUR, you can contact the maintainer or the packager, and that they're more than often very, very helpful in trying to resolve issues like that, because they don't want to get a bad reputation for putting bad software up there.
Correct.
And from an end user point of view, the very least you can do if you're getting something from the AUR is to download the package build and at least look at where the source is, where it's coming from, to verify that source, if nothing else.
Yeah, and the other thing is that person that packaged that is probably running on one system, maybe two. Maybe they tested in a VM on a couple different, that's doubtful though. So if you have some other kind of setup, and they would never know that that's a problem unless you report it. And that's the same experience I've had. I've reported things, and usually the maintainers are very good about making changes.
Silent, that just reminded me something. Would you ever provide a CRC for the checking the distros after we download the ISO?
It's already provided. SourceForge provide that. If you click on the little info icon next to the ISO, it'll expand, and you'll have a SHA-1 sum and an MD5 sum that you can check locally against the ISO.
Okay, cool. Who's whacking your keyboard?
Big Pot is cleaning it, right?
My computer got somehow stuck, and I can't do anything with the mouse.
Well, so. I think there's truth in both statements, and I think the confusion comes in from people who are not familiar with Arch itself and try it. Because there is truth in the fact that the AUR is awesome, and there is truth in the fact that the Arch community doesn't really want to support the AUR or you if you've installed something from the AUR. But like I said, that comes from more of a newer user type thing, because, Eric, you had said, well, I go and I'll, look at the package. Most new people to Arch are not going to do that. They're going to just simply, install it through as whatever way they can, usually through Paymac, and just not even, and when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, they're going to be, upset.
And then another side to that is that most of the time you're only using the AUR so that you can get the latest and greatest of what you use already.
Yes.
and it's only specialist or niche use cases where you're going to go outside of that remit and install everything under the sun from there. You are. People just don't do that.
No. Yeah. You're right.
Yep.
You know, so, you know, it's same with any distro, like again, with PPAs and things like that. It's, you know, vigilance is required anyway in any situation like that, where you're breaking out of the source repos.
I definitely think the AUR is superior to PPAs in the sense that you can install an AUR package and leave it at the same version, and it's not revved whenever you do updates to your entire system.
Yeah, that is good.
That's way better.
Unless you accidentally tick the box that says update from the AUR.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have too many boxes in my terminal.
And PAMAC, in the latest versions of PAMAC, you can look at the build before you install. You can look at the package, and you can also enable downgrade as well. In the AUR section, you can tick downgrade, so you can actually downgrade applications if you make a mistake.
That's super handy.
It's very handy.
I think Ritual was trying to jump in.
Ritual?
Sorry, Ritual.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to add too much. I guess
You're
I kind
waving.
of.
Well, you're an Arch user, dude, so we want your opinion.
I mean, apart from what Eric already said, I kind of just see it as Arch sets you up in a way where it's minimal. Like it starts you off, you know, at a black screen, terminal, TTY, and it lets you do whatever you want. That's pretty much the philosophy behind it. Whether or not you want to use AUR, that's up to you. I kind of see it as like the devs over there at Arch, they're not going to want to maintain all those packages. It's kind of a way to release themselves from that responsibility or that liability. But it's not just, I don't know if I would agree with the Arch community as a whole, maybe frowning upon the use of AUR. I think it's just kind of like you use it if you want, if you don't want it. I mean, it's you do what you do. You.
Yeah. Here's the rope you can hang yourself with if you want to.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we're not responsible though. You do.
Well,
I mean, it's a matter of freedom, I guess, and that kind of, to me, that fits well with the whole overall Linux philosophy. So that's, I don't know, that's my take on it.
I mean,
isn't the AUR known for having bleeding edge software as well, having a software first in that repository?
That's
yeah,
the
they have
reputation
Git builds, right? They'll have like the Git builds and things like that where it'll pull straight from the latest. Some of them, but there's a lot of times they'll have two packages. They'll have the stable and the Git, depending on who's maintaining it. And I just find it interesting that so much of this is focused on like the negative component. Like, oh, you know, and I'm not prophetic. I'm not saying it's a bad way to phrase it, that here's the rope to hang yourself. But like, I've used Arch for a long time, like 10 years, on and off, on many systems and many different variations. And I mean, I think maybe once, twice, I've had a bad experience with something that looked legit on the AUR that didn't work right or caused some sort of calamity. I mean, I guess
I've never had anything go wrong. I've had them not build, and then that's when I'm okay. I can't use that. I'll go and find something else. But otherwise, everything just works from it for me.
Well, I have to agree, because I've used tons of things from the AUR, and never have I had it break my system. I've had Arch updates break the system, but yet never had something from the AUR break the system. So,
do you think that might come from, though? Wasn't there a situation? What, I don't know if it was in the last year or so or whatever, where somebody put something malicious in there and it got caught, which that's half the premise of this. If it does get caught, you know, you fix it or you take them out, you get rid of them or whatever. Because I mean, that happens. That could happen with snaps or flat packs right now too. Although there's supposedly, you know, measures in place now that are going to help prevent that, you know, as this progresses. So I think that, you know how it is it's bad news will travel to 9 people, to 9 people, to 9 people, but something good happens only goes to maybe 3 and 3 and 3. And so, you know, the bad news always tends to spread first. And yeah, I think it's kind of like instead of maybe not to pick on you, Perfect, but like he said, with take the rope and hit. It's basically it's a use at your own risk thing because you don't know where it's coming from. But how much risk is there really? And I think that's what's being said here, because I think that's what the fear is, even with snaps, is because everybody thinks that you're going to have all these non-monitored, apps out there that people are going to be just downloading, and you're going to have all kinds of viruses and malicious stuff going on, and that's not really necessarily the case.
I think I have an easy way to put all that into a few words. It's like having all the repos that are out there for Ubuntu and Debian-based distros, except instead of them being everywhere, they're in one spot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what actually Kevin said in YouTube chat, that it's like a PPA, but it's one source rather than tons of them.
Yep.
Good point.
PPA aggregator almost.
It's kind of handy in doing things that where you're trying to do an appliance type thing like a Raspberry Pi, because sometimes there's one guy that has this thing set up just right for that, and it's not in the main line, but it's been tweaked just right. And I've had to use AUR for that before.
Yeah, like if they compiled it with, say, like FFmpeg with a different, set of compile flags or something like that. That's a great use case for something in the AUR where you could do it yourself, but somebody who knows more than you may have already done that and tested it and is putting that out there. And then other people have used it and given feedback. So I don't know. The whole argument against, a new person why would a new person even be using Arch, frankly? I mean,
because of us distro hopping.
Recommended by a podcast of some sort.
But also
YouTube
everybody
videos
has to
recommend
start somewhere. Everyone has to start somewhere. I think that's the thing with like people who say if you're not ready, don't jump. Everybody was a beginner at something.
Absolutely. And hey, trust me, when I first started, I broke my system on a daily basis. I mean, it was just the way. But I'm also smart enough to have backups of everything, so I would break it, roll it back, break it, roll it back, and that's how you learn. I get that. But if you're just trying, let's say you're not a technical person, right? So you don't have the appetite to learn something. Because to me, it's all about, that's the whole point of doing any of this, is to learn something new, because then I feel like I've accomplished something. If you're just using a computer and you need it to be stable and you need the apps you need, like, why would you do that to yourself? It just doesn't make any sense.
Because it's fun.
Michael?
Well, I think part of that is, you'll see YouTube videos and they'll be like distributions for beginners, and they'll go and talk about Manjaro. And then people will be, and they will see the comment section, oh, Manjaro is really cool because of the AUR, blah, blah, blah. And they'll go and install that, and that's where they're getting the trouble. I think that's part of the problem. Some people just don't realize that it's really not an ideal thing for a beginner in Linux.
Maybe there needs to be a sub community of people that actually think the AUR has a good use for it and will actually, something about that thing from the AUR, and there should be a place for that to go. Like, we're out here kind of in the wilderness of things, all of us to some degree.
Well, that's where the online platforms and forums come in of those OSs. But I'll be honest, though, it wasn't until I had Antigros on my system for about, I think, 8 months, when I felt the power of the AUR and the benefit from it, it gave me a desire to do it from scratch, like to do a pure install from AUR. So it kind of gave me legs underneath me to say, oh, wow, this is what they're talking about when they talk about Arch and speed and stableness, because it was pretty stable for me. I had like one or two dependency issues that I was able to kind of fix on my own with a couple clicks. But I think that's part of the reason too, is like some people want to put their foot in the water and then let them decide if they want to continue or back out.
I'm just going to blame Silent, because he's just making it too easy to try Arch.
Yeah, Silent. Your problem is making it too easy, man.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question,
I mean, he's not the only one. There's the other Arch distribution that's very popular, other than
Arco, Manjaro, and there's one more too. I forgot the other one.
Swag Arch, Archman. There's lots of them.
All right,
but going utility,
I got a point.
Scratch. So,
Dan.
Yeah, so we talked about support and the different distributions supporting. I mean, how much can any one group support.
Yeah.
So at some point you have to draw a line and say, like, we just can't go beyond that. We don't have enough resources here to do that. So we have to cut you loose. We have to say you're on your own a little bit. So, I mean, if they're going to provide a quality product, whatever that might be, they're just going to have to say that, yeah, anything beyond that, we'll here it is, you can go, but we can't do any more to provide the quality thing that you're looking for. So I mean, I'm sure every project has that dilemma. How far do they want to go? And at some point they have to draw a line.
And every 6 months or so, you'll hear about even on Google's App Store, Google Play, like somebody sneaks in something.
Mm-hmm.
Even on Apple, sometimes I remember back in the day, some kid snuck in something with some flashlight app, and Apple couldn't even catch it. So it's like even the big guys can't catch everything. Yep. So
they just busted like 10 apps that had Monero or Ethereum miners built into them, and there was even some in the Microsoft App Store, but they were disguised as battery management and optimization apps. So low hanging fruit. Anyone that doesn't know how to use their phone for the minimal stuff to keep junk out is like, oh, my battery's dying, and now it's going to die worse because you're being mined.
So AUR is pretty much like nothing short than a miracle that it's like still has a pretty much strong reputation because of that.
I think it's community policing.
Yeah.
Derek just talked recently on one of his recent videos about a malware that was released too at Linux, and I think it was more geared toward enterprise, but still a point. And we've said this before, as this keeps growing, the target's going to get bigger. I mean, I keep saying that like a broken record, but it's the truth. I mean, right now it's not on the radar as much as maybe Windows or Mac is because of, the money that's involved with them. But as Linux starts getting more and more popular and starts growing, and maybe where people are starting to monetize off it or whatever, who knows where it's going to go.
Well, good thing there's BSD.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You took my thunder. Darn it!
Still BSD,
I think Derek, was it Derek or was it Brian Leddick? I can't remember. Yesterday was mentioning something about a ransomware for I think it was Derek. Ransomware on that would attack your Apache server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the guy was asking for like 20 Bitcoin.
75,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was willing to negotiate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know what BSD stands for?
Yeah.
Stupid distro, right? Isn't that what everybody says?
No. On that note, I think we're going to end it.
Yeah. This may be the last time we see Joe. Those BSD guys are getting radical over there.
All right, before we go any further, before we end this at all,
just kidding.
Prophetic, you sent me a Telegram message the other day, yesterday or the day before, and you asked me to what?
Yeah, so being that it's a great community here on Weekly, I thought, wow, how can we take this and put it on the website? And I asked you to consider the opportunity of almost like open sourcing the blog, almost where people can contribute. A lot of us have very passionate views on things and unique perspectives, and it might be a great place to document and share those things in a nice, friendly format.
Yeah. So it's something that I had never thought about because I personally am not going to start blogging. That's not something that I'm interested in doing right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the blog on the page, and we are going to open it up to the people that join us in the BDLL community to post a blog post. So what will happen is it'll be a community blog. It will be the BDLL community blog. And if you want to submit an article to it, you can just send me an email and or just go to bigdaddylinux.com and do the contact page and submit the article. And we will, obviously once it, gets, vetted, we will post it on the BDLL community blog. So I think it's awesome opportunity
Nice.
for you guys to, who write articles, to get your articles out there, and like I said, be a community.
And will you accept submission from someone who doesn't write?
All I ask is that it's Linux related and that it's clean
and PG
family
friendly.
Yeah, that's all I ask. So that's something that you guys can do if you're interested. And thank you, Prophetic, for the suggestion. It was awesome.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right, we're out of time. That's it. That's all we got. So, Zeb, last word.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Rocco, for putting on this Big Daddy Linux Live every Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to next week, because next week is the second Saturday in the month. Yes. So we get to do BDLL Europe. Now, BDLL Europe starts at 3 p.m. EST. Now, I'm not going to do all the conversions all over the world. You can work it out yourself. Google's a wonderful tool.
Yes,
but I will say that that's 8 p.m. UK time. And depending on what part of Europe you're in, it's normally 9 p.m. Europe time. So BDLL Europe, Saturday the 9th of March, 3 p.m. EST. Be there or be square.
Awesome. Peter, last word.
After all this big talk about the AUR, I went and checked the Solus repository for Cherry Tree. Thanks, Barb.
You're welcome.
They had it. Yay. So I installed Cherry Tree, and I look forward to testing it.
More importantly, do they have Bitwarden?
I have no idea. I refuse to try. I have my own system, and I'm not messing my passwords up.
Bitwarden's is a flat pack in the repositories.
And you can use an app image anyway. So
yeah,
Peter, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Michael, last word.
Well, I already have my pluses and minuses for Bitwarden for next week, so I guess I'm ready. And thanks for the stream as always.
Nice. Chris, last word.
Be interesting, see if I actually get any use of Bitwarden. Like I said, previous note takers just sit on my phone for God knows how many years before I decide I'm not using them, take them off again. But other than that, let's see, ham radio likes Linux. So any ham radio operators, start learning Linux. You can find that you can deploy your rigs a lot easier and a whole bunch of other things.
Nice.
Just a quickie for you as well, Chris. Bitwarden's note taking is its secondary function. It's a password manager.
Right. I don't use password managers either. So.
All right, Adam, last word.
Thanks for having me. It's a good time. I already used Bitwarden, so I already have what I had to say. So, good time.
See, that's what this week is. It's a free week. There you go. Paul, last word, brother.
Yeah, I just signed up for that Bitwarden. So hopefully I'll be able to figure it out. Thanks for everybody. I always learn something every stream. That's why we do those. Like, I was looking on DistroWatch, and I didn't see Salient OS on there. I would have never known about this OS,
Yep.
Why isn't it on there?
It will be.
Okay.
It will be. Nate, last word. You are muted.
So thanks. Yeah. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I was thinking if Linux gets too popular, we can just jump to the Amiga Research Operating System. Something that is pretty obscure and probably safe. So, but I just downloaded Bitwarden this past week to try it out, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I just kind of pushed pause. So now I have to push play again. So we'll see how that goes.
Dig it. Silent Robot, last word.
Thank you very much, everyone. Great feedback. That's really going to help me improve the build for the next release. And thanks for inviting me on again, Rocco. It's always a pleasure. Great community. Love hanging out with you guys.
We love having you, brother. Steve, last word.
I want to thank Silent for making my first kiss with Arch pleasurable, and thanks for letting me join. And you guys take care.
Awesome, Yannick.
Well, as everybody said, thank you for hosting this show and having me here. And it would be a nice thing to test a software for once, not having to find a VM or a machine to install an OS. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Agreed. Barbara, last word.
Okay, I want to thank you, Rocco, and everybody. This is always fun every week. I don't know yet if I'm going to try Bitwarden because I'm kind of like, I have my passwords and I don't want to mess things up. I'm kind of like with Peter on that one, but I think I'm going to take a real look at Salient OS because everybody kind of raved about it, and maybe I would have a better Arch experience. So that's a plus.
If you try it, Barb, you're going to have a good experience.
Okay. Thank you.
Thomas, last word.
Well, thanks for having me on again this week. I had a lot of fun. Salient OS was a lot of fun too. Good work, Silent. I hope to see it going great places, and I think it probably will. Check out Draugr OS at draugeros.ml. Yeah.
Okay. Joe, last word.
Well, I thank you again as always. Always fun to see everybody on here. Silent, you did an outstanding job. You know, I know everybody has choice, and there's a lot of distros out there that we haven't given praises to, or that people may not like. There are a lot of good ones, and sometimes it's hard to make choices. But I think Salient is an excellent one for Arch, and if I ever decide that I want to start looking a little harder at Arch, it's definitely going to be my first on my list. I'm not just saying that. I really did like what I saw, so maybe it's time to expand my knowledge a little bit. But thank you again.
Eric, last word.
All right. Thanks, Rocco, for having me on. I really love this. It's so much fun to just get on here and talk with everybody. And Silent, I have to tell you, it is a triumph of open source, in my opinion. Someone can have an idea of what they like and what they don't like. The software is available. You can pick it up and make it your own and share it with everybody. And it is truly what this is all about. And kudos to you for doing it and for doing it so well. So that's it.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that.
Dan, last word.
All right, thanks for having me, and glad I could make it.
Yep.
And yeah, great job, Silent. It was really enjoyable, and I'm glad you could make it and share with us that this great distro. Looking forward to next week.
Thank you, Dan.
Ritual, last word, brother.
Just want to say thanks again, Rocco, for allowing me on the stream. Thank you, Silent Robot. I think you did an awesome job again. You're doing the Arch community. You're doing good things for us. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I'm not sure if I'll get to that BitLocker or Bitwarden, but we'll see.
It's all good. It's not mandatory, brother.
All right, cool. All right. Thanks again, Rocco. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rachel.
Prophetic, last word.
I guess my first blog is going to be the 7 reasons why Puppy Linux should be your.
Did I mention that our Prophetic's going to be the introductory blog post?
Yeah,
I'll read it for sure.
Thanks, Cubicle. So thanks for another great show, and I always look forward to these things. So let's have fun. Just keep it going.
JJ, last word.
Really liking the background music that's playing at the end of the episode. So
yeah,
kudos
really
to that.
Thank you.
Very good.
By the way, just want to give my congratulations to Silent Robot for doing a good job on what I've heard about this distro Salient OS. If at some point I do feel brave enough to tackle Arch, it may be an option for me. Just want to put that out there. Also want to put out that after the stream, we do have the Discord server for BDLL. Just want to put that out there for anybody else who wants to join us.
How can they join that, JJ?
I think it's bigdaddylinux.com/Discord.
Yes.
All right.
Brand recognition.
All right.
That's where we take our BSD bashing.
Yep. Big Pod, last word.
Thanks for having me. And if I'm going to check out Bitwarden, I'm probably gonna self-host it. So I'm gonna have a bit of a talk about that also.
Well, that'd be good.
Scrapjaw, thank you for the background music. Last word.
You're welcome. Actually, as I mentioned Mixbus earlier, I'm actually playing through Mixbus and everything right now. So I'm going to do a whole nother thing on how my setup is, and I talked to SilentBot about testing some stuff he's working on because I asked him about DAWs in Linux, and he mentioned some things. I was like, send it to me. I'll play with it. I'll bang on it. Because there's not many people banging on audio stuff in Linux. But the few people that are doing pretty good with it. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I will check out this Bitwarden. Is that our challenge? I'm on LastPass, so I'm gonna have to figure out. The one thing I'm gonna have to test on there is migration. If you think it's the one you want, migration is the thing.
You can import from LastPass.
Import straight from LastPass. I came from LastPass. It's a
So did I. Yep.
Cool.
I actually have both of them running at the moment. So if you're on LastPass, you can test Bitwarden. There's no problem.
Nice.
Nice. All right. Thank you for watching. You could join us at Big Daddy Linux /Telegram if you would like to join us during the week for what we talk about the distro challenges or about the software. Don't forget about BDLL Europe. And other than that, we will see you next week. Remember, long live Linux.
Later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Later, everyone.
Good night. Adios.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
We love you. Just kidding.